Hello and welcome to the Human Side of Real Estate podcast. My name is Mark Toomey. I am managing partner of Tata HRC, which is a boutique real estate headhunting company based in Warsaw, Poland. Today, my guest is Piotr Trzciński, who is country head of Savills Investment Management in Poland. Piotr, great to see you. Thank you very much for coming in.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Thanks for having me on the show. And good morning to you, and good morning or good afternoon to your listeners, wherever you may be.
So great to see you. We know each other quite a long time, and it's been a real pleasure and honor knowing you over that period of time, and back in, I think it was in June, you surprised me a little bit because
What's that?
you posted an article on LinkedIn, and it was a very detailed and honest article, and it was called 30 Things I Would Say to My 20-Year-Old Self 20 Years Later. And anybody who hasn't read this article, jump onto Piotr's LinkedIn profile and you'll find it there, because it's just an absolute treasure chest of fantastic information, and I wasn't surprised that you posted something like that, because I know you, and you're a very kind and you're a very generous person. So that didn't surprise me. What did surprise me is I also know you, and I know that you're not one that, I suppose, actively looks for public attention or so that part of it surprised me a little bit. But it was a brilliant read. It was really fantastic. And you almost killed my podcast before it even started because you...
That was certainly not the intention, Mark. And thank you. I feel flattered. I got to tell you, I was overwhelmed by the response to that particular post. The number of messages I got and then follow-up conversations, it was unlike anything I've ever seen. And interestingly, that post. I think I haven't checked in for a while, but it had over 11,000 views.
Wow!
And I've never achieved that number of views on any work-related post that I've ever produced. Right, and so that was on one hand, that kind of blew me away. But on the other hand, I thought that it maybe resonated with people, or people took something out of it which they deem important. So, to me, that's the biggest reward.
No, absolutely.
And the intention was the intention behind that was, as we've spoken before, that was really a collection of my various thoughts or considerations over the years. It was quite difficult to put into framing of words with the word limit and LinkedIn, etc. But it's genuinely how I felt about what I feel about things when it comes to your professional and personal identity.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and and as I said, the interesting thing about this I found was that this is not just this is not just for you said things that you would say to your 20-year-old self 20 years later. So this is not just for 20-year-olds. When I read this, it really resonated with me because it was also a reminder to me of some of the important things that we face in life and in work, and so it was just a very timely reminder of some really good points. Now, so today I want to talk about some of those things today, and obviously I'm not going to get through 30 of them because we're limited on time a little bit here, but I did pick out ones that really kind of resonated with me, and so you mentioned just very briefly as to why you posted that, and I as I said, knowing you, like initially, my first reaction was that, okay, well, this is your way of kind of giving back, sharing that knowledge, sharing that information, which you've done with me many, many times. Every time we went for lunch or coffees, or you've been so kind of generous with your information. But let's start with the very first point that you had on it, which was understanding the why. So can you tell me a little bit about just what's behind that?
Yeah, sure. I guess there's everything for everyone in that particular bullet point there, but my intention was to maybe self-reflect on the core reason you are in a job or you do particular tasks, right? I mean, every so often I do it with myself, just to check my pulse, check my motivation, check my engagement levels. And it's really about staying informed about what your inner self wants, right? So it's a kind of a self-examination, I would say, periodic self-examination. And if you couple that with what I call a mission statement, that is your personal set of values, goals, beliefs, things that matter to you, whether it be professional or private, then it's just easier to navigate and steer a career, avoiding the pitfalls of getting into a trap of what you don't want to do or what you're forced to do, or misalignment with your values. That's what it's really about.
Well, that was the interesting thing, and I think the whole self-examination process. It's something that for me personally, I have been undergoing over the last couple of years as well, and I think it's as we get older, we kind of we are a lot of us do look at our lives, and we do look at our beliefs, our behaviors, our values, and to quote Socrates, an unexamined life is a life not worth living. Now that's a bit dramatic from Socrates, but he was a bit dramatic anyway. But the point is still the same, that if you're not constantly evaluating your beliefs, your behaviors, your values, then it's really, really hard to see where you're going in terms of your direction. And you mentioned there, one of the points in that was why you were told to believe, or what you were told to believe is the purpose of your job might not align with your beliefs. And I think that's really important as well, because if we, even from being a young child, we're force fed a lot of beliefs and behaviors and values that are not our own. And it depends on the society that you grow up in. I grew up in Catholic Ireland, in the 80s.
Yeah, I'm aware. Yeah.
So a lot, so the societal attitude that I grew up with, and I adopted beliefs and values and behaviors, that 20, 30 years later, then you start to find they don't align with
that is why you need self-examination every once in a while, right? Because the way I look at it, your upbringing, as you said, you're pushed into a certain set of values because you don't have your own. You're immature to have your own, and over time they may be self-inflicting. That is, they create inhibitions in you that you even unknowingly may be giving off, or that may stop you from, taking the risk, going out there, doing things, what have you. That's about. I mean, that's again self-realization of those inhibitions you inherited, or you developed, or someone put that in you, right? And I think there's a great point you mentioned there is about misalignment of values with your own. Initially, I admittedly, the intention behind this point was more about your personal values versus company values. Every company has a vision, mission, values they want to instill in their employees, and they want them to be good citizens and embodiment of those values. But it's worthwhile thinking whether those values align with your own.
Yeah.
Even before you take on a job, right? Even before you commit. Are you really going to be living those values, or you just write them off or ignore them?
Yeah. I think I think it really does come down to just to finding your true identity, and there was another point later on that you had made. It was I made a note of it here. Point 10, to preserve your integrity, and that again, that's just staying true to your, or at least I took it as being staying true to your values, your beliefs.
That is right. Yeah.
Yeah, and another point you made in point 12 was to carve out headspace for reflection. So that, again, they all kind of tie in together, but you do need to undergo that process at some point in your life, and just look at these things, and I think that's, and you need to carve out the time and the space to do that. And who knows how long it'll take? It could take days or weeks or months. Who knows? So, but you've got to, I think I would recommend everybody do it at some stage. So, moving on a little bit, because one of the other points you made, and I thought was really interesting as well, and it really kind of ties in with what I wanted to do with this podcast, because I'm meeting guys like yourself, who I know, I've known for years, I suppose in a professional capacity, and we work together, and a lot of our meetings have been kind of business focused, but then obviously as we get to know each other a bit better, we start to know our off work persona then as well, and so one of the points you had was build your off work persona, and that kind of stays on the theme of identity, and you said don't construct your entire identity around your job. Let's talk about that.
Remember that. A lot of us in the real estate industry, we work in high intensity, high reward jobs, as I called it, right? So there, you get to reap a lot of reward, but you have to put in an extra effort or compromise your work-life balance. As long as you agree to it, it's a trade-off. Then sure. But long term, the danger here I wanted to bring up is that you get so enmeshed in your work that you forget who you really are or who you were. And I don't have the time to cater to your off-work persona, right? You forget what it is to be yourself. You're so focused on the objectives at work and delivering and performance, etc., that it gradually takes over your entire life. And the point wasn't for a reason. I had personal experiences with that point, but fortunately, early enough, I figured that this just went too far.
Yeah.
In terms of my work persona taking over who I really am.
Yeah.
And the related point is those two personas should not differ much.
Yeah.
Right.
No, absolutely.
People will spot a fake person, right? Like that, because we have this radar, subconsciously or not. We have this radar which spots fake behavior. And again, subconsciously, we're looking or, want to be around genuine people.
Yeah.
There's embedded, being genuine is also embedded in that point, in a sense that, you should preserve one integrated persona. And on the off-work persona, on the danger of it is that, as soon as you get laid off, retire, or just walk away, you may find yourself in an abyss, right?
Yeah.
A large part, a very important part of your life is gone, temporarily or permanently. You're out of the workforce, you're transitioning, whatever. And then you kind of struggle with that because you didn't have that second, or you didn't cater to your true self in the meantime. What does that mean? everyone knows what's best for them, I guess, but it may be through, charity work. It may be through sports. It may be your family life. It may be you're taking care of your relatives, right? It may be education. It may be mentoring, coaching. It may be engagement in professional, non-professional related bodies for a greater cause. It may be, whatever it is that keeps you off work and feeds your inner energy. Right?
And the other thing, we discussed when we met a couple of weeks ago was that, the workplace, you spend a lot of your life in the workplace, and for me,
no doubt. Yeah.
For me personally, like, a lot of my very good friends, my close friends today, are people that I met in the workplace, and I think that, if your mentality is too, okay, I'm here for 8 hours a day. My objective here is just to use this platform to advance my career, advance my wealth, advance my status, and that's all I want to do here, then you're going to find it really difficult, because there's people you need to interact with, there's people around you, and you're missing great opportunity, and you're missing the opportunity to make lifelong friends.
Yeah, absolutely. You're missing out on the opportunity to humanize them and let them know your personal side. Right? Because we're not robots. We're not there just to punch card.
Yeah.
Whatever we do.
Yeah.
It's the people who make the difference. And I'm proud of what we have achieved at Savills IM in terms of the team in Poland, because I was told, and those are not my words, that they feel like family. I mean, they feel like they can be themselves, or everyone can be themselves, and just be accepted as they are.
Yeah.
And that was my overwhelming goal when I built that team years ago.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And look, I know those guys, obviously. So,
you know them. You speak to them probably.
Yeah, so and I can confirm that, and it's really, I don't know how well they think I know you, but when they tell me things like, you're a really great person to work with, and that's beautiful to hear. That's
amazing. Thank you.
So staying on this, because one of the other points that you mentioned was don't take yourself too seriously, which again kind of goes back to that off work persona, and again, as I said, just being open to the opportunity of making friends in the workplace, and I think if you are too focused on your career development, on your ambition, on all of that, then I think you isolate yourself a little bit within the community of your workplace, and but also as well, you also don't want to be a pushover. You don't want to be somebody who's trying to be all things to everybody. So I think that's a really important point on that.
Yeah, it is. It's the thing is, it's just if you look at your career progression as phases, one after another, it's easier to exteriorize yourself from those roles you're assuming, which will most likely be temporary, and focus on your human side, on what you can give as a human, how you can let other people know what you are at work, right? I don't mean being friends with everyone. This is not the role of a manager, by the way. It's just showing your human side for the others to develop a predictable path of your behaviors. Worst comes to worst, right? We all organizations face crisis, right? And people will look at you and think, hey, how he or she's going to act in that situation? We have a crisis, right? Or there's a tough client, project, whatever. This is where your human side comes out.
Yeah.
How well you rein it in, how well you manage it, whether you'll be supportive, whether you'll be pushy, whether you'll be stressed out. This is your human side. This is not your managerial role-related side.
Yeah.
I think that this is really crucial in terms of building long-lasting, trust-based relationship within the team and the manager and the team members as well.
And it's interesting because you have and obviously I have the same situation as you in that, we both have a really kind of close knit small team, but you need to maintain a certain amount of personality distance, as a manager to the team, and I think it's okay to show a certain amount of emotion, to a certain amount of vulnerability, but you've got to find your own little. You've got to find where you draw the line.
The balance, right?
Yeah,
the balance. I mean, there's again, extremes are never good, right? Being too vulnerable, being too compassionate, that goes against your role as a manager of the team.
Yeah.
But on the other side, creating a brutal, culture full of ridicule, kind of busting your chops, kind of work environment. That again is wrong, right? And people will leave. I mean, unless you're in an industry or people knowingly accept that and participate in that, and caveat made, some participate because they feel forced to participate, not because they want it.
That ties into another, and I didn't make a note of this, but I'm paraphrasing here a little bit. But one of the notes you made was, I think it was, passion is overhyped. Did I get that right?
Did I say that?
I think.
Did I use the word overhyped?
Maybe it wasn't overhyped. It was passion is over. Maybe.
Overrated.
Overrated,
okay.
Maybe. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. So I mean that kind of ties into what you're saying as well, because you can become overly emotional if you are overly passionate about something, and if you are too attached to something. I think you and if you're finding that not everybody is in agreement with you, and you find yourself in an isolated position on that particular topic, then it
you don't want a my way or the highway kind of stance, right?
Yeah, I know. So we mentioned the team, and I think one of the points again that just really resonated with me, and again I take this on my own personal experience and with my team, and it's point 16 that you made was give credit when it's due. And I think that's just such an important thing. And I think, I there was a quote I heard that I don't know who it's from. Might have been from me. But it was
don't be ashamed. Bring it up.
It was, so the quote was praise is worth more than a raise. And I think that's just such an important point to make.
It is. I mean, you managers will not always be in the position to reward their employees financially or, benefit wise or any sort of a material way because of budget constraints and other limitations all companies face. And sometimes, the team are looking for a good word, a praise, and sometimes that does way more if it's done right. That is, if it's done genuinely, if it's done at the right time, that your timing is right for that, if it's done publicly, if you go above and beyond to their bosses, if they're not your direct reports, then it can yield fantastic results.
Yeah.
Obviously, not with everyone, but I am a true believer in acknowledging effort. End of the day, none of us is isolated in whatever we do. You have a team. I have a team. Everyone else, probably most of our listeners have some teams or are part of teams.
Yeah.
And you never succeed alone, or you rarely succeed alone. And I think that is what you have to keep reminding yourself day and day.
Yeah. And I think we have moved in today's management style, we have moved beyond the carrot and stick model, the reward and punishment model. And that was something that I talked about with somebody else on a previous episode, and looking at other ways to really motivate and integrate your team, and I think just even as I said, just rewarding people with recognition of when they have achieved something, and it doesn't have to be the deal of the year or anything like that, but it's just when that they're proud of what they did. And I think that's the key thing. When that when they're proud of what they did, and you recognize that, and you reinforce that feeling that they have, they walk out of the office that evening and there's a spring in their step, because they feel good about themselves, and they feel good about the fact that other people have recognized their efforts. And I think that's the crucial thing here. And you cannot replace that feeling with financial reward. So that's, I think that's a really important point that you made on that one. That's
just to finish up on this, if I may. A good manager, in my opinion, also sees or appreciates the effort put to achieve an objective or a task as much as the end result. Because let's face it, not everyone will be successful in achieving those objectives, right? There will be failures, inevitable ones, and as long as you make an effort to appreciate the hard work they put in to get to this point, that is also a very good motivator. Because they might fail, but they might have done all they could to get there.
But even if they fail, even if the recognition is given, if they fail, and say, listen, I saw, I recognize what you were trying to do here. I recognize the effort you put in. It didn't come off this time.
Totally, yeah. I mean, it'll come off next time, right? Just keep that grind, right? Or do what you were doing. You will eventually succeed.
Yeah.
Right.
No, totally. So staying on the subject of employees, and point number 19 you made was understand what makes employees unique. And again, this is a really important one, because if you can understand what drives somebody, what their needs are, what their ambitions are, I think, and if you can tap into that, and you can harness that, you can help them achieve that. And I think, but if you don't know what really drives a person, are they financially motivated? Are they some other way intrinsically motivated? What's the real key driver for them? And if you understand that, then I think you're halfway there to helping them achieve their own ambitions.
That's right. And I underline that the key, win factor here is your emotional and time investment into making this relationship. Obviously with larger teams, that's probably more challenging, because you as a manager of a large team, you may not afford as much time and attention to recognizing particular set of motivations of an employee in your team. But you may want to try it in smaller teams, right? And then just kind of go from there. It doesn't take a lot of time. What is essential is open communication and you being alert to the signals those team members send, right? And it's for you to interpret. Sometimes it's no harm asking questions. I'm a big fan of open questions. Actually, on this, I've evolved a lot because I was a statement guy in the beginning, and right. then I hope I'm a question guy.
Right. Okay.
But the questions are very powerful, right? In that particular space, and as soon as you start asking questions, people start speaking up, right?
Yeah.
They might not, and they will not tell you everything because there's their leverage or whatever personal reasons. But as long as you keep asking, and as long as you act on their responses, then I think you're set for a relationship and understanding what truly motivates them.
Yeah, no, totally, and to shamelessly quote Voltaire, judge a man by his questions, not by his answers.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
So that totally rings through. But what you were saying is that's understanding what your immediate team, the drives and the needs of your immediate team is easier to do when a team is smaller. And as you said, when the team gets bigger, and I had Daniel Bienas from CBRE on here, and he's got a team of 600 people, and and that was one of the things I wanted to kind of get to him. And I was saying, like, how do you get your message from the top down to the bottom, down to the junior analyst, the junior who's just started. You've got 600 people, and obviously then, he was saying, well, look, you've got your management levels and your senior management team, and what you want to try and do is that message has to be consistent all the way down, and the message saying, okay, understand your immediate team. So he's got to understand his immediate management team, their needs, their ambitions, and then the message to them has to be, okay, you've got to understand your team below you.
Yeah, obviously his outreach as the MD in a large organization is limited, but as long as you instill that same kind of mindset in your immediate group of management reports, that's what you want. I mean, that's what you want. That's a one way to tackle this challenge, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So another topic that you raised, and you didn't just print this, you actually act this, because you, in point 22, you said find a mentor. And you being you, the generous, nice guy that you are, you do offer yourself as a mentor. I think you do some stuff with ULI and you do with Top Woman. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, okay. So I do. I am a mentor. I had the privilege to join the second edition this year of the Top Woman in Real Estate Mentoring Initiative. And I also do, I'm a mentor to a younger person under ULI's mentorship program. We were matched as a pair, and we continue that since, I think it was fall last year. Yeah.
Right, okay. And I know you're a bit shy about this, but because you're a very humble guy, but in terms of who mentored you? Like who was there anybody out there who you kind of look back on over your career and go, wow, I really learned a lot from these guys, or that guy in particular? Or
I wasn't fortunate to have a true mentor, and that's what I admitted in the post as well. Perhaps it's a combination of not having enough luck, me being not open enough, and miss those people or those opportunities for mentorship as a mentee. So I decided that as my way of giving back, I feel confident enough and prepared enough to offer myself as a mentor to someone who may take advantage of this advice and this process, right, and kind of help them grow. But you asked me about people who I've learned from the most. It's are we allowed to suck up here or not?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah. Anything goes here.
Cool, man. All right, okay, I'll give it a shot then. I don't have one particular person, to be honest with you, that was my role model, because I've met a lot of them over those 20 years in the business, and I'd like to give credit to a few names, if that's okay, and I'll tell you why. First off, I like to acknowledge my two former managers. That is Kiran Patel, who was a deputy CEO of Savills IM, and then his predecessor, Giuseppe Oriani, which I had the pleasure working with at SIM in the early years of the business in Poland, for acknowledging my ambition and acknowledging and giving me a free rein as to how we want to run and operate this business here, also in terms of team composition and skill sets and processes and all the rest. It was, I think, I've always been the person that didn't shy away from challenge. I have immense inner need to build and create and compose and establish and grow and all the other stuff that's around creation, right? About creating business opportunities as well. And they just let me do that, right? You know, they said, look, Piotr, we trust in you. Go do your thing. Yeah. We'll check in every once in a while, but you have any issues, we're here. Go do your thing, right? Do what you need to do. You know what our strategic objectives are. Go do your thing. Another person I want to acknowledge, well, we never worked together, but we've been in a business relationship between our companies, is Robert Dobrzycki, obviously, right? Yeah. And that's one word I have when I think about him is grit. And his ability to put his grandiose visions into life. Yeah. Right. John Banca is the second person. You know John, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I respect him for the profound knowledge of our market and all the things he's done for that market throughout those 30 years. Yeah. He was the market maker, right? And he's always going to be someone someone without whom that market would be incomplete. Yeah. Right.
A lot of those guys, like I particularly, you know, Robert and John, and who I know, and you, and there's a common theme here, and I think, you know, very, very successful guys and great leaders and mentors, but the common theme I think they all have is when you get to know them, they're all really extremely humble guys, you know, and there's no airs and graces about them, and you know, so that's. Yeah, but one other thing I wanted to mention here is when we talk about mentoring and we talk about finding a mentor, and you know, not every workplace may provide an environment where you're going to have a mentor or somebody, you know, and there are people who you know have a lot of knowledge, have a lot of experience, are in senior roles, and one thing you mentioned. And you said you found the confidence to be a mentor. There's a lot of people out there that may have this knowledge, may have the experience, but they just don't have the confidence to be a mentor. And maybe that's a suffering from imposter syndrome or whatever it may be. But the point I wanted to make here is that if in your workplace there is nobody there that you know you can find, you know, to act as a mentor, well then I think one of the things that you can do is you can identify people around you that you really admire in your workplace, and you can look at their habits and how they conduct themselves, and you can mirror that, you know, and you can eventually, you know, if you like that, and that goes back to building in your own beliefs and your own behaviors, and identifying the things that you would like to have in your personality or your work charisma or your productivity, or, you know, whatever, and just find people, identify people, you know, and obviously try and mirror what they do and try and build that into your own you know, your own personality. So that's and the mentoring program as well is really interesting because you know, and I do have to give a shout out to Top Woman as well, and Christina there, who's been involved in that, because I think it's great. I think it's great that there is an organisation like that helps younger people, and I don't know if there's any other type of organisation like that in Poland, or not just in real estate, but I'm sure there is somewhere. But it's a really good thing, you know, and I think it's quite well known now. So I probably, at least in Poland. So
yeah,
so
I think if you feel like you need mentorship, then I would encourage you to take a look at those initiatives. Top Woman. Obviously, I think they're changing the format a little bit. They're going to be accepting guys starting this year, so it's not going to be exactly Top Woman. Okay. or perhaps renamed to top folks in real estate.
Yeah.
Right. But regardless, and also it applies to to considering a mentor role. My advice would just go do it. You can't do much harm. Eventually, if it doesn't work out, then you stop the process, and that's perfectly okay.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. There's never a perfect match. People's situations or circumstances change as the process goes. They drop out. They have other challenges, distractions. It's just normal. Like if you feel like it's not working out anymore, then just call it quits.
Yeah.
But be honest about it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So listen, we're almost out of time. I can't believe the time has flown so fast. But we've covered so much here. But one final thing that I wanted to talk about, and again, a point that really resonated with me, was point number 27, stay adaptable. And, I did a series of business coaching sessions recently, there was one of the assessments, and I think it was called Gallup assessment.
That's a famous one.
Yeah. It was new to me because I'd never done anything like that before. So, and my one of my top strengths was adaptability.
Really? Yeah. I thought it's radio host.
So no, definitely not. So adaptability, and when I kind of understood what it meant, it was really interesting because it was really about living in the moment and being able to adapt quickly to changing situations, and obviously when things are great in your life, you don't have to adapt too much. You adapt to your new hedonistic adaptation mode where you continue to enjoy the good life. But when things change quickly and things are not so happy, and you have disappointments at work, or you have disappointments in your private life or whatever, to stay adaptable means to be able to move with that quickly and accept the present moment as it is, and then decide, okay, this is my situation now. This is my reality. This is what I have to work with. So I have two choices. Either I can get on with it, or I can get back into bed and pull the covers over my head.
And pretend I don't have to take a decision, right?
Yeah.
Right. It's... Well, I think adaptability, if we're at it, is one of the key abilities one has to develop in today's constantly changing work environment. And again, I was professionally raised by, about scenario analysis and risk analysis. I'm a natural thinker. I do a lot of thinking and planning, what have you. So my in the moment, points of time are a perfect balance for my natural tendency to think and plan ahead, right? And that can get in the way of adaptability. Yeah. Right? Because if you're overthinking stuff, you're faced with a situation and you have to make a choice. You have to act quickly. Overthinking it deprives you of alternatives. Yeah. Right. So it's really like the focus there is about recognizing what your options are, what's your next move going to be, how are you going to approach it, and just get on with it.
Yeah.
Right.
But the other thing is, don't wing it. Because that is adaptability as well, and it's okay, situations change and you find yourself moving in a new direction, but don't allow the wind to just carry you.
Drift. Don't drift.
Yeah, don't drift. Have a plan.
But we're touching here where I think we're touching on self-awareness and self-confidence.
Yeah.
Truly self-confident people, A, they don't show it around.
Yeah.
And B, they know whatever life throws at them, they will be able to pull it off.
Yeah. And if I could be so bold to add point number 31 to your list.
Jesus, I've put down so many points. Terrible. Who reads it anyway?
but it's exactly on that. And for me, it's preparation. It's fail to prepare, prepare to fail. I think that's a key one, because I think whatever situation you're in, if you're at least in some way prepared, and even if it's an unpleasant situation, or it's a surprise, at least if you've kind of factored in that this can happen, I'm a little bit prepared for this. I'm prepared for the worst outcome here, in whatever you're doing. And
that's what we're talking about, scenario analysis, right? And getting what you need to do to prepare for different outcomes.
Yeah. And I think once you have at least some amount of preparation done, mental preparation done, you go in and you can carry a lot more confidence into a situation, because you can say, okay, I prepared for this. I thought there's a small chance that this may happen, that this may not work out the way I planned it or I hoped for it. But okay, I'm prepared for this now. And now I can adapt. And now I can move on.
Totally. And you know what the little trick is I use sometimes to do that? Is I make my base case my downside.
Yeah.
So I'd rather be surprised to the upside.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, absolutely. So listen, fortunately we're out of time, but I'd love to get you back someday, because we can go through the second half of this list.
I really enjoyed it, I gotta admit. I've done that before, but I'm not an expert. And when I listen to myself, the recording of the podcast, like, Jesus, I need to do better than that. And who's gonna listen to me, babbling about whatever it is we're babbling without any kind of host or guest experience. But I hope it wasn't that bad.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you so much. It's been brilliant. And look, I guess when you do anything like this, the hope is that you reach somebody, and it doesn't have to be a huge audience, but at least if this message or something from this, one little piece of this conversation resonates with somebody and they can take that forward in their life, then, I feel that we've done something good for the world. So
I hope that's the case.
So thank you again, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, everyone.
All right.